Okay, awesome. Yeah, they can see it. Okay, so our goal today here is we're going to talk a little bit about family literacy programs. I want to say up front, we want this to be a really open discussion. We called it growing family literacy programs because we're growing. We've been trying a lot of things to see what's going to work. So I don't want to sort of position ourselves as experts, but more as people in the process of learning this. And I'm hoping together we can really kind of dig into what might work, because we're finding that it's just so essential here. So you can go ahead and do the next slide. This is just a few pictures. I just wanted y'all to see some of our students, some new and some old. And the middle one in the top row, third from the left, that's Alejandra sitting in the chair, and one of our most dedicated students, Lupita. And their family literacy class is right below. Then we have some, this is Vivian on the left, and Ola, which is also a bit of a family literacy class as well. Anyway, we can tell a little bit more stories in a little bit, but I just wanted y'all to see some pictures. Okay, yeah, you can go on. Okay, so we're co-directors. Alejandra, and this is her first day, guys, as co-director. So everyone welcome her. We did not intend to do a presentation on her first day of work. It just sort of worked out that way. So that's kind of cool. So everybody welcome her. And my name's Meredith Martin Moats. I've been the director here for 3 years. We serve Franklin, Johnson, Logan, Pope, and Yale counties. So that's like a little bit above Central Arkansas. And I think we got put in the Northwest Arkansas group last time, but some of the towns you might recognize would be Clarksville, Ozark, Paris, Dardanelle, Russellville, Danville. So you can go ahead and I should say also too, we are a literacy council. We are not adult ed. We partner very closely with adult ed, including adult ed in Ozark, where Regina is, Polk County adult ed, where Allen is. So we're going to be talking about this from the perspective of being a literacy council and the fact that we take state funding, not federal, and that allows us to do some cool family literacy stuff. So we wanted to start off by telling you just a little bit about why we care about this. And rather than just talking about it from the position of why we care as directors, we're both caregivers. We're both, oh, Charlie says, congratulations. We're both caregivers as well. And it's a conversation we constantly have about navigating being mothers of multiple children, as well as being a director. So when I was thinking about putting the presentation together, one thing I was thinking about was when I first got hired, and Regina, who's on this session, when they hired me, they were like, how do you feel about family literacy? And I was like, oh, wow, well, I feel very strongly about it, because at the time my kids were, of course, even 3 years younger. And I know for me, as someone who was pretty low income at the time and who doesn't really have any family living around here, and most of my husband's family is out in the Northwest, you know, for me, like, if I can't bring my kids, I can't come. Whatever it is, if I can't bring my kids, I'm not coming because I don't have a lot of caregiver support. I need to always bring my kids. So, and I see learning is intergenerational. So that was one thing that why I really care about family literacy, is I know from my own perspective that I need to be able to always bring my kids with me when I'm engaged in any kind of learning or community work. And I'm hoping Alejandra would speak a little bit about some of the things that she's learned being a caregiver, especially for Diego.
Well, Diego is my youngest son. He's a 28 weeker. So for him, he's been a volunteer with me because he had to be with me all the time. He's 16. So he really is getting a lot. The kids that we serve are getting a lot from him, and him are getting a lot from this kid. Especially we are blessed to have all kind of people in our literacy class. And when I say this, we have kids aged from 3 to 12 plus the mothers. And also we have kids with disabilities in that group of kids. So Diego worked along with this kid a lot, and is helping him to accept that being different is not bad, and is being normal is not bad either. That we have to learn to work together. As Meredith say, part of the the family literacy is that we have to work all together. We are the teacher, but we are mothers too, and we understand that these mothers are not able to learn English in the English class we're talking right now. Hopefully later we can expand it to another areas, but because in the afternoon they have to have their kids.
Mhm.
And sometimes they get frustrated because they don't know how to do the homework because they don't speak English. And by coming to the class at least Tuesday and Fridays, they know gonna be somebody in there that can help these kids. So basically, it's a win-win for everybody.
Exactly. And so we want to kind of brainstorm with you guys about what's working for us. We also are going to tell you a little bit about the mistakes we made, because we have some of those. And I'm hoping we can just kind of open a dialogue up about family literacy with everyone. So go to the next slide, please. Okay, so here's the conversation goals we're hoping to have today. Again, we can go off topic if we need to, but we want to kind of center intergenerational learning, not as like something unique or noteworthy or a special program that's out of the ordinary, but just rather as something foundational for the adults that we serve here. We want to make sure bilingual literacy is central to family literacy programming, so that everything's always bilingual. I would like to say we also offer a Spanish class right now on Fridays as well. So we're including English speakers to learn Spanish. So we're trying to make that go both directions. And so then we want to talk a little bit about moving beyond ideas to real action, and then ... on a tiny budget, because if you're like us, we don't have much budget. So how do you do that creatively? We want to talk a little bit about troubleshooting and navigating some of the roadblocks, which some of them are very valid. And then brainstorming some creative partnerships where you guys are. Hopefully we can come out of this with everyone being inspired to work together across the county lines, wherever you guys are. So, okay, we'll go to the next one. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about the backstory. Alejandra wasn't here yet, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the backstory from my perspective. One of the reasons we are so successful with what we're doing now is because of Alejandra. So this part that I'm going to tell is before we got there. So like I said, when I was hired on, I was really excited about the idea of family literacy, just obviously as a caregiver I was, but also just because, I knew enough about the community to know that people just bring their kids with them. It's just part of life. Like it's you don't really split generations. Like it's just part of the way it goes. So we sought out to get a building in the Dardanelle School District, which was a little different than some of the other literacy councils. So this picture here is early on when we first started. This is our first AmeriCorps member, Kimberly Garcia. She's not with us anymore. She moved to Chicago. Last I heard, she's doing great. But she's standing by this sign. So this sign was an old handmade sign that one of the Dardanelle people had made for this building a long time ago. And it was called the Parent Educators Resource Center. And so the dream was kind of like, okay, we're going to make it become that again, because it hadn't been for like 15 years or something. And one of my first moments when I was recruiting tutors is we actually had this guy come in, and he's pre-med at Arkansas Tech, and which is in Russellville. And so I'm like, hey, let me show you around the place. Let me show you the building. Let me show you what we got going on here. Of course, I was really new. And so I'm like, let me show you what I'm figuring out. So I said, let me take you down here to this room that they call the Parent Educators Resource Center, which is at the end of the hall over by the sign. And he's like, oh, yeah, I know about that building. That's where I learned to speak English when I was in 5th grade. He's a pre-med student, right, at Arkansas Tech. So it was like moments like that where we've got to figure out how we can partner with the schools to bring this back, because it was clear that it was happening before. It's clear that the town needed it. And it was clear that families needed it. So, but how? So, but it was a lot of confusion for us because we were working mostly with an adult ed model, which is really wonderful, but also sometimes keeps people from being able to come. So I had lots of dreams and a whole lot of confusion. So let's go to the next one. So here are some of the roadblocks that we experienced. Again, some of them are for very valid reasons. I don't want to make it sound like these are just all roadblocks that are there for no reason. There was a lot of support for the idea, but not as much support for the implementation. Again, I think that's just because, trying to figure out how to navigate that can be really hard. So people love that idea, but then when you kind of get out there, like, okay, how are we going to do it? Okay, how are we going to do it for no money? Then it becomes kind of complicated. No funding, no staff, we're part-time. We didn't have a lot of funding. So, we didn't have a lot to work with, but at the same time, we kept hearing like, if our kids can't come, we can't come, right? So we kept being like, okay, so now what? So sort of general separation in learning reflected in separation in funding. And what I mean by that is if y'all get the GAC, we cannot use any GAC funding for family literacy programs. So, we have to do that on our own time. And so again, that unintentional, I think, kind of divide saying, yes, learning is holistic, but how are we actually going to do it, right? So one of the things we've learned is that, the Literacy Council and Adult Ed can work really well together. Springdale Family Literacy Program is an amazing example. They've let us come up there and follow them around for a little bit. They're really huge and they have a multi-staff organization. So it's a little different, but we have been learning for them. A couple of other roadblocks, and I can go into details with this later if anybody has been navigating this, but for example, you have to make sure your building has an insurance policy to have kids in it. Luckily, our building is owned by the Dardanelle School District, so that's no problem. However, our individual insurance policy will let us have volunteers for the kids, but not be paid. So that is sort of an interesting thing we're navigating. We tried to do a lot of work during COVID and do homework helpers then, but we found like people were just too overwhelmed. So really things are starting to open up now. So those were a few roadblocks that we have been navigating. I'm wondering if anybody who's interested in family literacy wants to speak up right now and just talk about any roadblocks that you guys might be experiencing or anticipate experiencing. Just feel free to like chat or speak out loud, either one. And if you don't have any, that's okay. Okay, we'll go on to the next one. And if y'all think something, just feel free to drop in the chat. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about how we started making some progress on this. So again, we were like reading about all these really cool models and all these really cool programs, but then we were like, yeah, it's like big staff. Those are like big grants. We're small. Our funding is small. Our ability to sort of bring in funding is not super huge yet. We're getting there, but not super huge. So we were like, okay, so how can we really get rolling with it? So we applied for the innovative grant from the Adult Learning Alliance with Belinda and Nancy. And we hired this woman on the right, Veronica, who's on this call. Hey, Veronica. She's also doing some Spanish classes for us right now. And one of the things that we asked her to do was to take over our social media page. Since COVID, we were really using social media for almost everything. And so like really use our social media page to reach out to people and find out like, what do you really need? Because like I said, we kind of knew that parents needed to bring their kids, but what we really needed is some real hardcore proof of this. And so Veronica, who's on the right there, started reaching out and communicating with her students at Tyson. And we started learning more and more about, that a lot of times at adult ed, people can't bring their kids, which there are insurance and legal reasons for that. I'm not trying to sort of talk badly about that, but that does mean that some people who want conversational English are really struggling to figure out, okay, where can I take my kids? That's a safe place, So we found that out. We got lots of information about that. We kind of gathered those stories. And then we started writing some grants around it. And then also reaching out to the community and letting people know about these stories. And then on the picture on the left here, this is a volunteer and some students that was just taken like a week or 2 ago or 3 weeks ago. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, so the other thing I think that we started doing, I'm going to pitch it to Alejandra and let her talk a little bit about the students that are in this picture. This is a very unscientific and not exciting way to explain this. But basically we were like, okay, you need to bring your kids to show up here. We went to the school, we double checked the insurance policy. They were like, yes, you can have kids, it's fine. Just keep, and then I checked with our insurance guy for the Adult Learning Alliance, and they're like, yes, you can have volunteers to work with kids, but they cannot be paid in any way. Of course, we went through some stuff around background checks and things like that as well. And then we were just sort of like, all right, let's start this. And so we kind of started just I like to always say we make the road by walking. We just sort of, there were the first couple of nights we did it, we were like, okay, wait, what? Like there was a lot of confusion. But I think one of the big things is it was our students that really took the lead. So I'm gonna let Alejandro talk about Lupita and who else is in there?
Dunia and Marisol.
Yeah.
These three students, they are two of them are graduated from GD. They used to be my students. One is still, Lupita is still my student, but they was really looking for a place where they can learn English in the afternoon, but they cannot do it because they have their kids with them. Lupita has 5 kids. Marisol has 4 kids, and Dunia has 4 kids. For example, Marisol case, she has her kids, the kid she has with her, the new husband, and she's raising a grandkid of her husband. So that family is so mixed that we're being able to help Marisol to how to teach the kids. And Lupita has 5 kids. Those are Lupita's kids. Lupita's kids, she has 5 kids. She only brings 4 though. The little bitty one, the baby, stay with his father. With her father, but Lupita has a severe autistic kid. And it's so I'm so thankful to God. And I'm so happy with Meredith that he wants to come to the class. And she don't understand why. Probably it's because of me that I'm just kidding. He don't wants to come to the class because he covered his ears. He don't like to social, he's not social. So, but he's fine in the classes and he works with Diego a lot. So works, no play, works like Diego talked to him and he just started to be verbal and he's like 6, 7 years old. So Lupita is one of the big cornerstones for this program because she's learning English because she wants to be able to help her kids. Mm-hmm. And also Marisol is a good story. When I'm AmeriCorps member, I help her to do all the process to get into the public school in Pottsville. She works in the kitchen and she didn't know where to get the fingerprints, nothing like that. And she was able to do it. Thank you to programs like this one.
So I think, yeah, one of the things we learned is like, if first, just kind of asking, okay, rather than trying to make a family literacy program around our ideas, just go to the parents and say, okay, like, what do you need? And Alejandra probably won't say this about herself, but one of the things that Alejandra is working on right now is Lupita is probably going to take on a leadership role at some point with these family literacy classes. And so, and can we say about Lupita being 7th? And yeah, so Lupita has a 7th, she only went to 7th grade. And so she's really like making all kinds of strides and she's going to take on a leadership role for this. And so it's really exciting for us. And that all came from her ideas. So let's go on to the next one. I think we just have several. Oh yeah, there's that picture. Yeah, sorry, you can skip that one. There's a few more pictures. So just, I said, like I said, it's called Growing. And to give you an idea of how much it's just growing, can we go back to the one before? We started having classes before we even had time to get the new bookshelves filled because we got them donated. And then we were like, okay, we'll get them in the room. Next week, we'll put the books on them. So it really is kind of this process of growing. This is the English class meeting here. So the kids are in the room just right across the hallway. If you've ever been to one of our board meetings, you'll remember it used to be the board room. Now it's a kids room. And so this is where the adults are working on stuff and we'll go on to the next. We've been using the Step Forward series over there. If anybody's interested about that, that's been really helpful. The other thing we started doing to kind of grow the family literacy is we also have a Spanish class that we started, and that's kind of a slightly different program, but I want to mention it because it's been really essential to getting where we're at, is we have, and this is actually one of the nights that the English and Spanish, yeah, we had English, so the English students are there on the right-hand side, and then these two ladies in the back are in the Spanish class. So we've had them combined a couple of times so they can practice together. But one of the things that we're trying to do is make these spaces really like intergenerational, and that helps people like get to know each other and know that what's going on. And then that really helps us like talk to other people in the community and say, hey, we need more volunteers, we need crayons, we need snacks, you know, the things that you need for these kind of things. And it really opens up a dialogue between people, because one of the things we're learning from our Spanish classes is that when people said they wanted to take the Spanish class, and we did a survey, like why, like, why do you want it? Almost everybody said that it was because they wanted to be able to speak with their neighbor or their coworker or their child's friend's mom or whatever. And so we've been calling the Spanish program Neighbors y Vecinos, so like neighbors and neighbors. So that we've been overlapping that, and the Spanish students can also bring their kids with them to this as well. We'll go on to the next one. We started calling Fridays bilingual days, which is tonight. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go on. Yeah. So yeah, this is, we already told a little bit about Lupita's story, but is there anything else you wanted to add a little bit about Lupita's story, or?
No, just eventually, if she allowed me, I'm gonna let you know more about her life. And she's really stepping forward, and most of the strength came from be able to help her kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, I think like one of the things we're just trying to is to not really overcomplicate the program, but just to like really build a relationship with the students, which Alejandra has a really great relationship with the students. And so just letting them kind of drive what the program looks like. And I want to say clearly, you know, that I worked on stuff for multiple years, and the only reason we're able to get where we're at now is because of Alejandra's relationship and trust with the students. And we're trying to build that out and kind of just make the road as we go. So let's go on to the next slide, and then I want us to do some break.
One thing that I want to add is that you don't have to have a expensive curriculum or a design curriculum. That can be the ideal that you learn in college to do. But actually, when you have this kind of ESOL literacy classes, family literacy, you have to adapt of everybody needs. And I have been blessed to be able to address individual needs and no general needs, because I'm a GED teacher. So I have students that only finished 3rd grade, and I have students that has a master or doctorate in Venezuela or Cuba that is different level of education. So I have been able to grow myself in that area to address the needs. For example, Marisol is married to an American guy, so she speaks pretty good English, and she can talk like we're talking right now, but she cannot write. So I work with her with the writing. I take the college, like pre-reading college books or the high school books that has pieces of Robert Frost and all that, and teach her how to do that. Lupita wants to, she can talk, but she cannot read really well. So we're reading books in English that start little, and she translated, and that way we put together the both things. And I can tell you one by one, we do it different things. And we have one standard book that we already have. That's the other thing that I want to point out. We have tons of books, but tons of books that we don't know what even know. By now, I has been checking like five different versions, like different kinds of English books, and be able to pick the easy ones or the ones that I need. And I have been choosing two. One is from Rosetta Stone. How long those books has been on the building?
A while.
A while. Mm-hmm. So this word maybe is funny, but recycling books, no expending in money on things that we already have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're using Step Forward, Rosetta Stone, and then with the kids, we bring craft projects, and then also they bring their own homework. So that's a lot of what
It's a lot
they,
of work.
yeah, yeah. I've been trying to do third grade math very unsuccessfully last week. So anyway, just throwing out some things about what's working with us is like, again, starting like really, really small. If you're a big organization, you have a big funding source, this might not make sense to you, but we're talking more to like small organizations with really small amounts of funding. So we capped our family literacy class with the joint ESL class at 5 women, because 5 women, there were like 15, we had 15 kids. Not everybody comes every time. So that was, we were like, okay, let's just start with a small group and let them lead the way. Number 2 is my favorite strategy for all things, like just try stuff. Like we just have been like, so one of the things, like I said, I wrote a huge grant the first year trying to get some Dollar General family literacy funding the first year, because I was like, we got to do this. Miserably failed at that because we didn't really have somebody. There is a mistake. Thank you very much. Yes, I probably shouldn't have been typing this up late last night when I was finishing up some stuff. But anyway, so we have just been trying things and just kind of seeing what will work, and kind of backing away from trying some of the big grants and trying to build up the program and then later go for that. We work with ESL teachers directly at the public schools as well. We send out letters to them. That's been a huge thing. We've been training the students to actually be teachers, overlapping the Spanish class. And honestly, number 6 is kind of my favorite, and it may seem really oversimplistic, but I feel like it's really important. There's so many things out there where people will be like, well, you can't do this, you can't overlap this, you have to have this, blah, blah, blah. I try to take it from the perspective of like, this is the way we get people in the door. If we're going to grow our numbers, this is the way we have to do it. And so even if it means we do it on a tiny scale, and we're going to do it. And one of the reasons I asked to do this presentation today is because I'm hoping as a collective group of literacy councils, we can push for kind of pooling some of our resources to do this even more, so that we really can grow out bilingual family literacy for those of us in small towns. I know in big towns it might be a little easier. Okay, let's go to the next one. All right, so we wanted to talk a little bit about what's working where you are, and areas where you need support. Like I said, we called this growing because we're growing. We're not trying to position ourselves as like having all the answers. This is very much like a work in progress. But there's this Anne Lamott quote, if you guys read Anne Lamott, that I really love, and I kind of have taken as a life lesson over the years. And she has this quote in her writing where she's like, always write, or in this case, speak about the things that you needed to hear when you were struggling. And so that's kind of where I'm coming out from some of this parts of the presentation. Is when I first started, I was like, I want to do family literacy. And then it was like, whoa, this is very complicated and people love it, but finding the actual tools to do it can be hard when you're a tiny organization. So I'm hoping that we can have a discussion about like where you are, why do you want to do family literacy? If you're already doing it and you're really successful,
what we can learn.
Yeah, what we can learn from you, how we can partner, how we can get these resources out to more communities. We just really want to kind of open up the room and have a discussion about what's on y'all's minds. Oh, and there's a chat. Let me see if it's working down there. Let me see if I can, can you see us now? I realized I didn't. Here we are. Are we both? There's my head. Oh wait, okay. There we go. So are any of you all currently doing any kind of family literacy programs, either at your organization or partnering with anyone? I'm gonna try to go back to everyone.
Meredith, this is Regina. I've actually thought about doing family literacy in Clarksville a few times, because that's where our highest ESL population is. And that's usually, where it's mostly needed is with family literacy. Not always though, not always. But I have to admit, every time I start thinking about it, I just get a little bit overwhelmed with it because it's like, oh my goodness, where am I going to put these kids? And just like you talking about the insurance issues, and because I always think, because kids can be noisy. So you also have to have a separation. And then, where am I going to fit that within my program, within my center that already exists? I've thought about, well, we could maybe try to do it at the school instead. I mean, did you ever
Mhm.
approach the school about location, or was the location just easy for y'all?
Yeah, I mean, because when we first started the position there in Dardanelle, we just got the school, we were in a school district building. So for anybody who doesn't live in Dardanelle, we're located, this is some real small town stuff for you. The old home ec building, like if you're from here, that would mean something, but it's where the old home ec building was, and then the superintendent's office, and now it's like us and the tech guys. So it's owned by the school right behind the intermediate building. So we're right behind the school. So one thing we have approached the school about, and we don't currently have the capacity to do that. But again, one of the reasons we wanted to have this presentation and kind of build stuff with you guys is we're hoping to get there, is being able to have sessions at the primary school in Dardanelle. Because we have a partnership. You want to tell them about Magali? We have a partnership with the ESL teacher.
Well, Magali, she translates a lot. She started working in the Head Starts and ABCs, and now she works, she's a teacher. She works with the Darnell School District. She was so kind that passed her flyers during summer
Intent, yeah.
during summer vacation, and we get like 5 applications back, plus the ones that I already have filled out with the students of the GED that need to learn English. So we has been withholding on those applications precisely because we're afraid we're not going to have enough space to accommodate everybody. So we actually gonna look forward probably after December, January, February next year. Right now, we want to keep everything running and set how we're gonna do things, but definitely next year, we're gonna be looking the way how we can expand. But as now, if somebody don't come on Tuesday, because like Friday is crazy day, everybody show up on Fridays. So the ones in my class, in the ESL class that don't come on Tuesdays, I have openings on Tuesdays. So I only can take kids on Tuesdays, because if all the kids of my students show up, it's 5 mothers and 15 kids.
Mhm.
So the kid, and we're blessed that the kids are well behaved. And on Fridays we have a new volunteer, and it's Diego, my son. I have another son, Irving. He don't show up on Fridays, he has game. But if he can later, he's gonna be able to be there. They are volunteer, both of them. And we help each other. Meredith has been able to take her Spanish classes because she's everywhere. Or Meredith is, Meredith, please. Meredith, she's gonna change her name soon. But that is the biggest problem we have right now, is exactly what you're saying.
Mhm.
In this building, we're blessed that has separate rooms.
Mhm.
So, and the big room where we have the kids, we actually can shut the doors.
Mhm.
And the room where they are having the Spanish class in Friday, it's like noise concealer or something, because you cannot hear anything that is happening.
Mhm.
And the English classes across, but we has been blessed. But we cannot have more than the 5 students Tuesday and Friday with their kids. We cannot serve more
Mhm.
as now in that schedule
Yeah.
because of the capacity.
Yeah. So it's like we have a waiting list. But also, like I said, when we first started, we tried to find more resources and more funding. And because we had nothing going, we couldn't. It was like, well, you can't start until you start, but you can't start with money until it was like this sort of like horse and, sort of cart, like trying to get it all together. And that, so starting really small has been, like I said, following Lupita's lead, and has been kind of that way that's really worked. I see there's questions over here and I can't get this thing to move, and so I can't read them. I'm not sure.
I can read some of them for you.
Okay, yeah, it's
Yeah,
like.
you have mostly comments, but they've been good ones. So Gina is in here. She says she doesn't have a family literacy program either. So she's like me. So she's just trying to get an idea. Then we have Charlie. He said they have a reading program to preschoolers program. They work on children's picture book in class, and they always start with chicka chicka boom boom.
Mhm.
So he said that's where Heather said that they have a separate adult and children's program. So they know, so she said, I know I can feel how needed this would be here, but I cannot wrap my head around adding a third dynamic to our council. So she has children programs, she has adult ed programs, but they're separate. And so she's trying to wrap her head around making it together, I guess, is the way I took that. Then Charlie said there's great power in having parents reading to preschoolers. We gift the book to the parent after they learn how to read it. Dogwood welcomes parents to bring children to class with them. We currently have about 7 kids coming to different classes. We do not offer class for just kids. So
Awesome. That's really for the for Dogwood that has kids coming. What age group are those kids that come with their parents?
and Charlie, feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to join the
Yeah,
conversation. Unless you can't, and then I'll read what you type.
So Clarksville has a program.
Yeah, so I think also, one thing that is
Yeah, he said he cannot talk.
Okay. Oh
because
yeah.
his tablet's acting up. Can you type how old your kids are, Charlie? What ages that you do with your kids? Is it any age or the he said a 4th grader, a 2nd grader, and a 3-year-old. 2nd graders and a 3-year-old. So they're all pretty small.
Yeah, pretty small. It seems like, one of the things that I've noticed that's been like really inspiring, and sometimes my kids are there as well, is just talking to the kids, like, and being like, hey, your mom is over there, like, look at what your mom is doing, like, look at how hard she's working, or like my kids know that I'm learning Spanish. And so like kind of really, I feel like it gives an opportunity for the kids to be like, learning is not something that kids do. It's something people do.
And the other thing is good for the kids because they can see that they need to help other people, even if it's not money or payment involved. That is one of the duties as human beings to serve if we are in that capacity. And I think all the kids in there are learning that they have to help each other.
Yeah, Charlie said that his 18-year-old also helps with his night class as well. So
that's
seems
awesome.
to be that's part of it, huh?
Yeah, the other night, this will be one of my favorite memories forever. There was Ishmael had 3rd grade math homework. Not so good with the math, but I was trying to help. And so, yeah. And so they were wanting Irvin. He wasn't there, his teenager. They're like, you're not the teenager. But anyway, we got out like a Khan Academy video. And then my other, my 6th grade son, like, so between like 4 different sources, we tried to like really kind of figure it out. But, it was kind of sloppy. But at the same time, I thought like, this is really beautiful because this lets kids see that adults are always learning. Like we have to go to resources sometimes, and maybe we understand how to do it, but like we don't really know how to tell anyone else to do it. And so, I would say like they're just very free flowing kind of homework sessions for the kids, but it ends up being really neat. And then the older kids who already know how to do that, it gives them this sense of accomplishment because they're like, I know how to do that. Like I can help with that. And then sometimes they argue with each other. No, you don't know. Anyway, but like, it's super great. Like, and so I think, one of the things to speak to the person who's like, how would I merge them? I totally hear what you're saying, because I'm not going to lie, it has been a little overwhelming. And one of the reasons I hoped we could do this presentation was to connect with other people, so it could be less overwhelming. But at the same time, like, I think part of it is we've been trying not to really overthink it. And so sometimes the English class is very separate. Sometimes the kids class is very separate. And then sometimes they just kind of all merge into one thing where there's a whole discussion about what an array is in third grade math.
For example, sometimes I have to just be 7:10, especially on Fridays, and I have to run because I have a game or I have something. So they want to stay after the class, and they usually stay with Meredith. What that happened with Meredith, they stay with me. Sometimes if they don't understand something, we stay there till 8:30 in the building, honestly. And that's the other part I want you to, I know you know because you're educators. You have to donate your time. You have to love what you do and be passionate about educate other people.
Mhm.
If you are not passionate about people, if you're not, you don't want to go the extra 150 mile, these programs cannot be happening and we cannot help more people.
Yeah. But I hear what you're saying about it. It's, and so we're hoping that we can find more funding, because I don't know if this is other people's experience, but my experience is that there's a lot of talk in all these adult education and, public school, like everybody's like, we need to bring it all together. But then you're like, yeah, how? And then people are like, well, I don't know. There's no money really, unless you're a really big organization, So I know it's out there, and I know Toyota and some of these big organizations do it. But, I do think that we could all work together to maybe find some funding on a smaller scale for those of us who, like Regina was saying, Clarksville is a small town. Dardanelle's 5,000 people. Honestly, and I didn't even mention this, but I should say this too, and this might be useful. Russellville is right next door. And Russellville is about 23,000 people. That's Polk County. That was one of the mistakes we made early on. Is I originally did try to do some stuff in Polk County with the family literacy. But I quickly learned that it was too big of a school district to try to navigate such a pilot, because they had, for example, four elementary schools. And you know how small town stuff is. Not everybody gets along, and and so it was like very quick sort of realization that we need to start this in a small community, which was great for us. I'm from Dardanelle. She's from Dardanelle. Like, we've been here for a long time. So that was great to start in a small community. But I would say that was one mistake I meant to mention earlier and kind of forgot, was that we did try to start in a bigger school district, making that partnership. And it was quick. It was like, oh, wow, we don't have enough hours in the day. But in Dardanelle, there's one elementary school. There's
High school.
Yeah, there's one.
Just one.
There's one ESL teacher, there's two in the primary. But so, I think that would be the other thing that we really learned is, like, even if it feels so tiny, because really ours is pretty tiny, but it's really cool what what we've been able to do, or not us, and what the students have been able to do. So if you have like a small community within your area, that might be the first place to go. And people are hungry for working for that kind of stuff too. Russellville, I think, gets a lot of initiatives, and funding flows through there in a lot of different ways, in the way that it does not in Dardanelle.
Mhm.
You have a question. It said, did you charge for your Spanish class? We tried to use our Spanish class as a fundraiser. We do not have room right now. We have socially distanced class set up though. So what about your Spanish? They weren't asking about your Spanish class.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and we're still figuring out how to work sustainably. For the short term, it's part of a larger grant outreach program to create bilingual communities or support bilingual communities, but we won't be able to sustain it in that way. So what we did when we first started, this is a great example of throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. Like, so it was like, I was seriously, that's a horrible example, but it's true. But we tried to figure out, like, how could we do this? And so we sent out a questionnaire, and then we got a bunch of information from other people about would they take the classes. So then we just started calling them. And so everybody I talked to, I would say, would you donate to the organization if you were going to take this class? And then what would you feel like would be a good sliding scale? And so everybody said yes. And And we started kind of trying to figure out what would be a good amount. And we've decided when we do it next time, we're going to do a sliding scale anywhere from like 200 down to $5 and really kind of pitch that it's sliding scale. So, you know, if you are able to give more, that is freeing up a position for somebody to come who, you know, couldn't afford that. So yeah, so what we had to do is kind of just start the first one, and we've already had one. Like the second night, one guy just walked in and was like, here's $50. Like, that's not my real donation. It's just for tonight. Like, you know, so we've had a lot of, because one of the things that came out from that I just didn't know was as big of a need as it is so many people have been like, I need it for my work. And so I think that this is just a long-term thing we've been talking about, but I think there is some workforce readiness in Spanish classes.
And that's the other thing I want to mention about Spanish class. We talked Meredith and I before we open, try to build the class and see what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it. This is gonna be practical Spanish, not like grammar and perfect, no. Practical Spanish, the one that, como te llamas, como estás, the basic things that you can start, not necessarily a conversation, that can be, my second language is English, that plus years takes a lot of practicing and being immersed on the language. That is why I'm able to talk decent English, because I have been immersed in the language. But if we're gonna teach the Spanish class, is how to order food, how to go, the same things that the people that wants to learn English wants to know, how I can ask for help to the doctor, how I can ask them for the prescription, how can I say thank you, and how much is the tip on a restaurant, how can I help you? And be able, if they answer, write it down in a piece of paper, and know my resources, how to translate it probably in Google phone or something like that. It's practical Spanish. It's not perfect Spanish with grammar points and apostrophes in el abecedario. No, it's not that. Like one time I covered the class and I pretend I was a border patrol from Mexico. What is your name? Where you come from? What are you doing here? What you come to do in Mexico? So they have to choose between tourists, sales, visit a family, or just vacation. So they learn that kind of words. So that is practically what we are trying to get for that Spanish classes.
Yeah,
not to be able
real
to write
basic.
an essay in college level.
Yeah, we had a
Yeah.
comment that said they have a 9-week class and they charge $90. And it says money is collected on the first class. And then they have 3 scholarships that they're able to offer for people. So that's kind of neat. So before COVID, they started a survival Spanish. They called it survival Spanish, 2 nights a week. And was starting to build that up before COVID. So that might be something they pick up again.
Awesome. We'd love to visit with y'all sometime afterwards and
Yes,
see if we can,
that's what I was thinking to us.
yeah, share. Yeah, last week, 2 weeks ago, the English and Spanish class played Loteria together, and that was really fun. So we got some back and forth practice, and we're gonna do, at the end of the class, they have homework. They, not right now, but at the end of the semester, they have to all go buy something in Spanish at a Spanish-owned local business and go eat in Spanish.
And also want to mention that Dr. Carvalho was a big key.
Yeah,
She's the Spanish teacher from Tech, Dr. Carvalho. And I graduated from Tech. I never take a class with her. She's tough. She's tough, but she's the best. So we get a great advice from her, and she brings some curriculum that we can take the first parts that are the conversational. So thank you to her too.
yeah, and our Spanish teacher, well, she's not there now. We had to change because of her awesome work in other places. But Veronica, who was on this call, Veronica Jacobo, she's who we're talking about, and we miss her every day.
Yes. I'm not talking to you, Veronica.
We miss you, but no, she did an excellent job taking on making making it something that's really great for the local people. It's been neat to see who's taken the class too, because it's a lot of people from Department of Human Services, CASA, Child Advocacy Volunteer,
Mark, Mark,
yeah. And then somebody from United
the
Way.
teacher from Tech.
Yeah, an Italian teacher from Tech who already spoke a little bit of Spanish. So it's been really neat too to just kind of see who,
who is coming.
yeah, who's coming and why they want it. So we keep telling them this is a pilot. We're guinea pigs, all of us, and so we're trying to hear back from people like what's working and what's not working and what do we need to do to make it better. So, so
Charlie
far,
says he would love to see your curriculum. He said his current Spanish book is too hard. So he's going to visit with you. So you should have their contact information from the.
yeah, Charlie.
We can add it.
I know her. Hey,
Oh, is
Veronica.
it a woman I've been saying it
Yeah.
to man this whole time? Why didn't you correct me?
I thought I did, but I think you didn't hear me.
Oh, well, sorry,
Veronica?
Charlie.
Veronica, do you want to say anything about how you adapted? Because Veronica adapted the curriculum and we had meetings about it, but that was mostly Veronica's adaptation of the curriculum. So Veronica, if you feel up to sharing anything, I know you're on here. No, also feel free to say no. I don't want to put you on the spot.
She did say she missed you guys too. So she might be willing to speak up.
I'll just say that I know we had that curriculum from Dr. Caballo, like Alejandro was saying, was way hard. It was a college level class, and then Veronica did a lot of, and Veronica teaches English to Spanish learners, so she did just a lot of kind of switching things around. And then I know they've asked a lot of questions. It was her idea to play the Loteria game, and we've had like really amazing feedback about what she brought to the class. And we have a new teacher now, Miss Anna, who actually works at the library where we're at right now. She just started last week, and she was having them work on talking about family members last week. And it's pretty informal again. Oh, I know something we should say about that. That's really worked. Charlie, I don't know if you have this there, but we also, I guess, assign, I mean, people can do whatever they want, but Mango, because Duolingo you have to pay for, but the Mango app is free through our library system. So I don't know if you have it through your library system there, but Mango is free here. I do Duolingo and I like Duolingo, but Mango is situational. Like Duolingo leads you through, like, there's just like a unit, right? And then you get to the end of the unit and go to the next one. But Mango has, like, you can pick from all these categories, like, and you can kind of dictate what you learn next. And it's all like talking to the teacher, going out to eat, trying to find the restaurant, whatever. So that's really cool. And our students have been saying that they use that a lot. So that's something that might be useful.
And also can be so good that you can bring some natives, or if you have your ESL students in there, to talk to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they, even like my English learners, they are hearing the English in the other room, the same way the Spanish learners are listening to the Spanish talking and the Spanglish in the other room with the kids. So they are actually exposing to the language, the Spanish learners.
Mm-hmm. It is super cool. Like I was super inspired. Like, I guess it was early on when we first started doing it, but like I was sitting in the office. This was before Alejandro was director as well. So I was sitting in there and she was in the other room working with students and I was doing some paperwork or something. And I could hear, like, because of where my office is located. And then I had to get up and grab something. So I went down the hall, came back to sit and do some more paperwork. And so I, like, in my walk, I heard Spanish, English, and then Spanglish. Like the young kids speak, both. Yeah. So it was just really neat. I was like, this is so fascinating. Like, I just walked, like, right down the hallway, and it was just really inspiring. And so, yeah, kind of all happening at the same time.
Okay.
And by the way, that was one of my first questions before I take this position, if I'm gonna be able to keep teaching my classes.
That's good.
Yeah.
We want to keep you teaching those classes. So it's 1:45. Well, it's actually 1:46. So I have posted a survey in the chat for this breakout session, and I'm also going to post one for the overall conference. And if you go to the overall conference evaluation, once you get to the end, you will be able to produce a certificate that you will print out, and you will enter the hours, the total number of professional development hours that you've completed during the ACE conference. And that will be your record. And then you can go, I mean, for adult educators, we enter in SQueb. I don't know if the Literacy Council use SQueb very much. I don't know. Probably not, huh? You're giving me that look like, what is that? But anyway, that can be your record of attendance for the ACE conference. So you just put, and every breakout session counts as 1 hour. We've had some people say that. Some have ended after 45 minutes, or no, every breakout session counts as an hour. It doesn't matter if it was short. Give yourself an hour credit for professional development. Thank y'all so much for joining us and finalizing the end of our conference day for this year. Appreciate it. Go out with the bang.
Other thing I want to say really quick, if you need any help with resources in GED in Spanish, just call Meredith or myself. I have 11 years teaching GED in Spanish. So anything you need, please let us know.
She's not busy or anything. She's not busy. She'll squeeze you in. Right. And you have a few thank yous. People are saying thank you.
Oh,
So thank you so much. Everybody have the conference link. If you need anything, it is in the program that was provided to you. And I can stay on here if you have any questions, but this is the 2021 ACE conference. All right, somebody says they do not see the links. Are you able to see chat? Who was that, Veronica?
Oh, good question. Can you just copy it?
I also have some links from y'all's PowerPoint that I could share in the chat too.
Oh, yeah, thank you at the very end.
For your resources links.
Yeah, I made that. Thank you so much.
Veronica, I just posted them again. You can see if you see them. I'm also going to post some links that Meredith and Alejandro had. If I can, let me see. There we go. You want to talk a little bit about them?
Yeah, I'm also trying to copy this chat, Veronica. I'll see if I can put it. Probably just be weirdly formatted, but I think I can copy.
She said that she got them. She said she has them now.
I'm not seeing are the links up there? I know I put
them in the chat. So you have the National Center for Families and Learning, Reading Rockets, and Springdale Family Literacy Program.
Yeah. And those are just like the three big overviews. That Center for Families Learning has tons and tons and tons of really great stuff, like just tons of stuff. But Springdale Family Literacy, I don't know if anybody's interested, but they were super nice and let us come and just shadow them. At the time, there was a American member named Yamira working with us. She's on our board now. But me and Yamira went up there, and they just let us spend the day watching and learning and asking questions. And it was like one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Granted, they have a huge budget. So, I mean, like, again, it's one of those things where you'd have to really adapt it, but they have been really open. And so if anybody, I'm sure they would let folks come up and visit. But that Center for Families Learning is our favorite thing to look into for, like I said, everything's got to be adapted, but for something tiny, but.
All right, ladies. Y'all enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For presenting.
Thank y'all.
If everybody has their links. I see a few people still in here, but I think it's starting to pour down rain here.
Hmm,
Okay.
I'm gonna have to get that chat. from
Heather, are you
Monica.
good? I can see your video on. Are you good? You can give me a thumbs up. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end then.
All right,
Thank
thank
y'all.
you, bye.
All right, bye-bye.
You.